We are so far removed from the idea of America and its minarchism written in the United States Constitution, where we have to bring her back to where she belongs. Thank you for listening to this episode of Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy. Of the world, and I welcome you to this latest episode of Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy. First things first, if you haven't already, make sure you have done so by doing the clicky click thing, like and subscribe and all that stuff to this channel. Also, you may feel inclined to go ahead and head over to the Patreon, which is listed at patreon.com/TOLM. Yeah, see, I can't ever get, Jesus, I can't ever get those together. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen so you can see it. It's patreon.com/TOLMF. And again, we're not, there's a free tier that you can subscribe to get a lot of the stuff that I write, but obviously a lot of the in-depth stuff that I do write and I have research is under lock and key. But that's besides the point. Just you popping up over there and signing up for a free membership and catching the things I do drop may encourage you to later, subscribe to the Patreon and get more information. But that's up to you. No pressure at all to you. I'm just glad you're here now. With that being said, we've traveled quite a bit since June, haven't we? We talked about the aspects of liberty, particularly minarchy. Minarchy being the absolute epitome of what liberty should look like. And we have talked about how the U.S. Constitution is written in that sense. Those of you that don't know, I am your host, Mr. Roderick Threets. And I am glad for the newcomers that have pulled up this evening. I thank you. Just even take a listen. Those of you that are repeat customers, I'm glad that you are repeat customers. I'm grateful because again, I tell you guys, if it's not for y'all, I would not be in this space for it'd be now 8 years. It'll be actually, matter of fact, it'll be 9 years in January. 9 years in January. I've been on these, as they like to call these, internet streets out here preaching the good gospel of liberty, as always. But I'm thankful for y'all. And those of you that catch this later on after it's already rolled live, or catch it on the audio side on your favorite podcast platforms, I thank you also for your time and all of that good stuff. Now, our last series that we did, okay, was the thought experiment, right? The implementation of what minarchy would look like, right? A blueprint to that type of society, right? We painted a picture of a world where individual freedom is paramount and the government's role is strictly limited to that of a night watchman, right? But now the real work begins. We have the destination in mind, but how in the world do we get there? As we sit today and we look at the two-party system, there, for a lot of us, there is a true fork in the road, right? Because in order to participate in politics, you got to be part of the two-party paradigm. Yes, I know it sucks, right? And many of us have road for the third party, whether it be a Libertarian Party, Constitution Party, some folks Green Party, right? And all people can say is you're throwing away a vote. Well, I offer you that you are throwing away your vote thrown into a two-party system, because the two-party system is still one party. So I beg to counter with the fact you are wasting your ballot, because the uniparty will win every single time. So why not try to get outside of that and go third party? But that's a story for another day. But you guys get my point, right? You can't point fingers at people that vote third party and then say things don't change when you're voting into the uniparty. Make it make sense. But this fork we stand at in the road goes further than political parties, right? The fork in the road is for us, and for us here, and a lot of folks that are coming into the minarchist type circle and understanding what this is about. There's two paths to get to minarchy. And as you can see on the screen, the new series cover, it's either through incrementation, I can't speak, Jesus Christ, incrementalism or revolution. Now, we've seen through history how revolutions have been the only way to create change. But those revolutions have always been what? Communist revolutions. All of them. The American Revolution was the first and the last revolution the world had seen that went away from an authoritative state to a form of quote unquote democracy. Right? The United States is the only country in the world that has ever done that. And this is why that United States Constitution is so important. Because the wrong dirty fingers on that Constitution will make it look like the Russian Constitution. It'll make it look like the French Constitution, where the government gives you rights instead of protecting your rights. And we got too many idiots in this country that thinks government gives them things. Government is staffed by man. And what is man at its core? Once they get power, they become greedy. They'll sacrifice your life to make that bottom dollar. The only thing the government can give you is debt, death, and destruction. That's the only thing the government can give you. And they do it through ways of extortion. This is why the minarchist state, the night watchman state, is very important. Because anything outside of that is a threat to humanity at all turns. You can play in the two-party system all you want to. At the end of the day, the two-party system wants control of that government apparatus to impose its will upon you, especially if you didn't vote for them. It's double. If the economy fails, whose fault is it? It's government's fault, because we've allowed them to participate in the economy. Every housing crash, every banking crash, all kinds of economic crashes has been caused by the government, and people seem to not get it. This is why we still need the minarchist state. But between the two paths that we have, between incrementalism and revolution, I'm going to leave the question to you to think about. You don't have to answer, but I want you to think in your head. Okay? Because this is us. We are creating this. Which path is the right one to achieve a more minimal state? That is the essential question we'll explore in this series. This first episode won't give you a definitive answer, okay? Make no mistake. But it will define the challenge and explore the merits of each approach, setting the stage for the journey we're going on ahead. So, what I want to do for a lot of for a lot of folks, I want people to just kind of take notes or listen, or you can go back and listen to it later, right? We have to define the terms that I'm using because there's a few terms that I've used so far that some of you may have a grasp on, and I'm glad you do. But I want to add the nuance to it, so there is understanding, right? So when we talk about these two different approaches to change between incrementalism and revolution, right? When we talk about incrementalism, okay, we're talking about a strategy of gradual reform, right? It's the idea that we can shrink the state by chipping away at its size and scope piece by piece, right? This path normally works within the existing political and legal systems that we have here in the United States, right? It's the strategy of passing laws to reduce taxes or repeal regulations or cut spending in a specific well-defined areas. It's not about overthrowing the system. It's about reforming it from the inside out, okay? It is a marathon. We a lot of us that have been active in doing these things and getting things repealed or speaking up in meetings against things, right? It's a marathon. And we can't allow people and entities and political parties to keep us down. Even if you are the one-man band, you can't allow these people to shut you down and shut you out. Because again, right? Give me liberty, give me death, right? Give me liberty or give me death. But remember, again, this is a marathon. When we're talking about incrementalism, right? It's marathon. It's not a sprint. Think about tortoise and the hare, right? The tortoise wins the race because it's being consistent and steady. Now let's talk the flip side of that. Revolution. Okay? In this context, okay, I'm not talking about a violent, bloody conflict, okay? Lord forbid. I'm talking about a fundamental and rapid shift in the way society operates. And we've seen this with the culture war, right? We have seen this, right? Where we have a society where men can be women, women can be men, and then they want to put it in the law that you can be whatever you want to be. See, again, this is government giving you rights, right? They're giving you rights that they're not entitled to give you, right? We see the new thing with the Cracker Barrel thing, right? Changing the logo, right? Even down to taking black faces off of food products in the store because people that have that brown face claim, oh, that's a slavery thing and whatever, and it's racist and Jim Crow, right? This is the type of revolution that moves the system around and it helps changes terms. That's the second biggest thing we have to understand, right? This revolution, right, will continue on until we grab a hold of the language. Okay? Because they will change the words around to the way they see fit. Any which way they want. And it's crazy to see you have grown ass adults my age of 50 that do not understand what syntax is. I know you guys know what it is because I've drilled it all the time because English is important. Words are important in how you use these words. Because if you don't understand how to, you know how people say just use your words. Well, people don't know how to use them properly. They'll use an intransitive verb in a transitive sense. They'll use a verb in its modal sense when it's supposed to be a directive sense. Right? People don't understand syntax, or they never listen that part of English class going through school, and this is why they talk stupid when they talk. They didn't understand that part. And that's what's important, because if they can change the language to fit it the way they want it to mean, and you don't know the less, they have won the war on words. And when you win the war on words, what happens? They end up taking the language and changing it around, hence changing the US Constitution and your subsequent state constitutions to mean something it was never supposed to mean, because people don't read and learn the English language. But this path argues that the state is so deeply entrenched and so fundamentally flawed that trying to change it from within is a fool's errand. This is what these people think, right? The moment you achieve a small, well, before I even get to about this about the rest of this, right? I want you to think about what I just told you. Okay? They argue that the state is so entrenched that it's so fundamentally flawed that trying to change it from within is a fool's errand. Who says that? Who says that? People like the Antifas, people like the Ku Klux Klan, people like the white nationalists, the people like the Black Hebrew Israelites, the people like the Groypers and others like them. They want to violently overturn the system. Because they don't want to do the work to imply, to not necessarily imply, but to win people over with their ideas. And you notice all the people I named, those groups I've named off, they all have one thing in common. Well, they have a couple things in common. The biggest thing is they're statist. That's the biggest thing. That's all you really need to know. The rest of them use identity to push a narrative or ill will against other people. You hear what I'm telling you? Just like the other day, classic incident that just happened up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. A bunch of Antifa puss-ass thugs went to a spot where there was a shooting in 90, not shooting, but a vehicular manslaughter incident that involved a Hasidic Jew and a small little brown kid. Okay, the Hasidic Jew hit the kid. There's a big memorial there now, all that good stuff, right? Antifa tried to go there spewing anti-Semitic bullshit in the neighborhood to incite unrest, uneasiness in this community that has basically healed from that incident. This is what these supremacists do. People can say, oh, Antifa, there's anti-fascist. Racism, fascism, same vein. Same vein. They're both statist ideas. A racist is a fascist, and a fascist is also a racist, period. They're ethnophobe, xenophobic. They're the whole thing. But you see those groups I named, these are the people that think they can change from within. I'm sorry, they can't change from within. They just got to have a violent revolution and change the language and use these weapons that the government has allowed them to use, which is our government, and we allowed them to use these things. All these types of groups, all of them need to be knocked in the dirt, because statists should not breathe any bit more oxygen than a pissant, because all of their ideas involves subjugating people to their will, and they are not God. But I digress from that. That's what I'm talking about. This is why we need a minarchist government, a minarchist society, so we can deal with these things on the individual freedom and right level, and not use the government as a prop or a whipping post to impose will upon people. Because I guarantee you, if we go to a minarchist type society, racism, ethnophobia, xenophobia, none of the anti-Semitism will not exist, because the people will say, no, fuck off. Fuck completely the fuck off. If you want to do business here, you need to fuck the fuck off with that attitude and come correct. If not, guess what? I will discriminate against your ass because you're an asshole. This is why people don't want a minarchist type government. They don't want to abide by the non-aggression principle, because the government gives them laws that they can hide underneath their hate. All of it. This revolution they talk about, right? This cultural revolution, right, has created an irreversible change in public opinion, right? And social norms, right? Because they think all the old ways are obsolete. Think about it as a U-turn, right? Think about it as a U-turn. Let's look at COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, right? Let's look at COVID. We're not getting back to normal before 2020. We're not getting back there, because they created the U-turn with COVID-19, right? They didn't separate us by race initially, did they? They separated us by vaxxed and unvaxxed. And if you're not vaxxed, you're a part of the medical Jim Crow or the medical apartheid we are putting upon you, with the weight of the government behind us. And all the little sheep, I don't want to get impugned by the government. Hey, you got to wear a mask or you're killing grandma. No, shut your narrow ass up. Being a shield for the government. Well, the government knows best. No, the fuck they don't. You know who knows best? I know best. You don't live in my house. You don't live around my family. What you know was good for me? You don't. You just shilling for the government because they told you that if you're a good little boy, pat you on your head, we'll give you a little treat. Maybe we'll give you a medical card. We'll give you a, what's it call it? A COVID-19 booster shot card, so you can get into the fancy schmancy restaurant if you've been vaccinated, right? The government said, if you shill for us outside, we'll give you a medium McDonald's fry and a hamburger because you got the shot. Give you the card so you can go back and get more food that's not good for you to put in your body, even though you put this dirty injection in your body. Huh? Talk about a U-turn. And then they had the nerve, these same fellow Americans that we should shamefully and shame in their face call themselves Americans, United Statians, which I like better, right? We should be shaming them every chance we get until the end of time, because they sided with the tyrannical government that has been oppressing them, but just so they could try to get a leg up on other people and be holier, act holier than thou. You sold your soul out to an entity that doesn't care about you. And here's the thing, y'all idiots, listen, y'all will do it again. You will do it again because the government told you it was okay to do it the first time. There's no remorse. You sold your soul to an entity that doesn't have one. You sold your soul to a black hole. You sold your liberty and your neighbor's liberty to a black hole. And now look at you, holding the whole shit bag, figuring out what the hell just happened, asking people for forgiveness. No, ain't no forgiveness. You should have stood on liberty first, even though it was uncomfortable. But you were scared to get your pride and possessions taken away from people. You would rather sell your man up the river, get him thrown in jail, and get his house taken from him from underneath his nose because he lost his job and he couldn't pay his bills, all over a damn shot. But you okay? While that family is homeless, living in a damn car because you decided to snitch on them because they did what was best for their family. Y'all people that did that, you're the lowest pieces of shit in this country. And I'll say it again, and I'll say it until my last breath. When I'm 100 years old, I will say it then. You are pieces of shit, and I don't look at you any other way. I remember your faces on the TV and on the social medias. I remember sellouts to the bootlicking thugs. Sorry to go off on the side like that, but it had to be said because this topic, when we get into this, you're going to understand why my passion is where it is, especially with this series. Because you got people that listen to this and will choose the incrementalism route because they know slow and steady. They understand there's things you have to do. You have the other side of people ready just to rip it all down for no reason and do not know how to rebuild it because they can't read. You can't tear it up, just like they say, oh, well, Trump can't take away health care without a plan. You can't rip down a country without a plan to restore it. I'm not worried about some health care. I'm worried about you idiots talking about ripping up the Constitution and rewriting it. Kiss my ass. Because that Constitution looked like Putin wrote it. Anyway, as we continue on, I'm going to lay this case down for incrementalism, right? Because it's more realistic and it's less risky. Okay. It allows incrementalism allows for per se public adaptation, right? And avoids the chaos and instability that can come with a radical change, right? The small victories, like let's say a tax cut, can be proof of the concept for viability of minarchist ideas, right? Building public trust over time, right? It shows people that yes, you can cut government spending and services without the world falling apart, right? I have a friend. I have a friend back in Utah. Um, very passionate. More of your left right type libertarian types. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Who's been involved in local politics for years, right? Um, his primary focus there for a while was become a city council member, um, in Utah, Davis County actually. So in Davis County, I won't completely disclose it altogether. Um, And he campaigned on, scaling back some of the restrictive zoning laws, which made it difficult for small businesses to open. Good for him, right? Good for him. And as of this day, even though Utah is a Republican fighting state, as a Republican state, he still couldn't get anybody on board with changing the zoning laws. He didn't win his race for city council. He didn't win his race for city council at all. But you know what he did? He went into the county commissioner. So it's like, this has got to change. And he showed up. His one-man army showed up. Him. Meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. He showed up. And he accomplished what he wanted to do on the campaign trail. And I love it. We all can do that. Now, this is a win. This is a generational win in this war, right? Against the ever expanding state. Good on Alex, right? And he believes like I do, right? You have to be pragmatic and politically viable for people to jump on board, even when it's uncomfortable, right? Now let's take the other side, right? Let's take the revolution. Let's take the Sisyphus and the paradigm shift that they're these anti-American people want to take, these anti-liberty people want to take, right? The case with these people, the case for revolution is that it's the only way to make real lasting change because the state as an entity is designed to perpetuate itself. Now, from this perspective, trying to shrink the state is like I mentioned Sisyphus, right? Right? You push the boulder of liberty up the hill only to watch it roll back down again, right? You pass a law to reduce taxes, and the government simply finds a new way to spend and borrow money, right? Incrementalism, from this perspective, is a trap because it gives the illusion of progress while the state's fundamental power remains untouched. But we understand what incrementalism is. But this is what the revolutionaries think, right? I'm pulling from their brain a second to give you a little bit more clarity as we go into these definitions and go through on how to do these things, right? See, a cultural revolution, which we're seeing, we could call it cultural Marxism, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call it, right, is a fundamental change in the paradigm itself, right? If you again, we think about the way we communicate today, the internet was a revolutionary force that fundamentally changed how we interacted, how we do business, how we share information, things of that nature, and all of the old centralized systems of media and government, right? Now, for example, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Why I got this in my head wasn't just an event. It was a culmination of a fundamental cultural and ideological shift that rendered the Soviet system obsolete. Right now, I've I had my own moment of my understanding of this, right? Because those years ago, I started, you know, uh, uh, dabbling here in the digital media thing, right? Yeah, I remember the first outfit, Black Patriot Group. We remember the first nonprofit outfit. We had the first name out the gate fresh. We were doing things, was on top of it. And then obviously learning curve hit, right? Y'all know that. Y'all experienced it with me. And I had to make small incremental changes to adapt to even the changing in the digital media landscape, right? Um, and I'm glad I got ahead of that curve, right? Because technology, as we see later on, even you look past 2017. I mean, we're only 8 years in, and look at the change in 10 years, right? The technology itself was a revolutionary force that's basically made the print the legacy media model almost obsolete overnight. This is why the legacy media can sit here and continuously lie after lie after lie after lie, and no one holds them, right? No one holds them accountable, right? It's kind of sick when you create lies and you spew lies and you make millions off of making lies. I need some of that money. I mean, y'all hook me up. Y'all know somebody? Hook me up. Y'all hook me right up. Now, as we come to the towards the end of this here, right? I want to give you guys an idea what to look for in the next few episodes. Okay, because I said there's 8 total again in this series, right? And I'm writing about 2 episodes a week. So that's the things, right? So again, the question I laid upon you earlier in this broadcast, and I'll lay upon you guys again: what path is the right one for Minarchy? Right? The answer is not simple. It's not. Right? Again, incrementalism offers a safe, predictable path with small wins. A revolution, right, in its peaceful form, offers a promise of truly fundamental change, but with far less certainty. Right? So over the next few episodes, we'll explore both of these paths in much greater detail. Right? Now, mind you, next week there will not be an episode because it's Labor Day weekend. We will not be out here. All that good stuff, and I'll explain that after the fact. But for episode 2, right, we'll deep dive into the nuts and bolts of what I call the incrementalist playbook. Right? We'll look at historical historical examples, um, of both successful and failed reforms, and analyze the long-term impact of that. Episode 3, we're going to explore the Revolutionaries' Manifesto, appropriate wording, right? Looking at the moments in history where a fundamental shift reshaped society and whether that can be a model for an anarchist future. Episode 4, we're going to focus on the technologist path and how decentralization is a quiet revolution that is happening right now. And we see that with social media, right? Episode 5, we're going to explore the politician's gambit and whether a pro-liberty politician can truly legislate freedom. Episode 6, we're going to cover the grassroots movement, which is the biggest part of this, right? And how bottom-up community building can bypass the state entirely. Episode 7, we will address the state's last stand, exploring the inevitable pushback from those in power. And episode number 8, we're going to bring it all together, mesh it together in a comprehensive path forward. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it because this is, again, if you're not excited about freedom or liberty, then I don't know what you're living for. I don't know what you're living for. And it starts here with these kind of conversations. As I mentioned before, Labor Day weekend, there aren't going to be any shows. The 29th, the 31st, or the 1st, and maybe the 2nd. I have to get a hold of Val and talk to her about that. See how that's going through because of the problems we're having on Tuesday too. So I'm going to balance that out. And if it is the 2nd will come up, I will post it on the Patreon and let you guys know. That's how that's going down. Or I will mention it on Monday on tomorrow's show. So, with that, look, I appreciate y'all for hanging out this evening for a little bit and kick off this new series that, again, I am very excited about, very, very excited about, because this is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is where we start making changes in these blueprints and things of that nature. I also want to remind you guys, right? Remember, if you're in the Patreon, there is I've started a kind of new group. I got the kind of curriculum together for it, etc. It's called the Veritas Core, and I don't want people to look at it as a self-help thing. It's more of an education thing to keep to keep your mind balanced, right? Keep yourself well read in a lot of these different topics, so you can, if you happen to have conversation with people, you have some additional ammo on top of what you know, going into those conversations. So, check the post on Patreon. If something you're interested in, let me know. We'll get you hooked up. We'll get you into the Discord and all that good stuff. And, we'll, I want to do my best. I want to do what I can to help y'all, right? Um, get to where you want to be, right? Foster you with more education, things that are more education than I can do in a 1 hour and a half show, you know what I mean, 4 days a week, right? Because there's a vast amount of information and vast amount of things we can talk about and et cetera, but we can't condense it all into episodes. So this is one of the reasons why I started a Veritas course. So with that, if you're interested, it's on the Patreon. It should be, I think it's the pinned, or it's next to it. It's down in the feed anyway. If you're interested, let me know. Send me a DM or send me an email, or you know how to get a hold of me if you want to get a hold of me. So that's the thing. Remember, until next Sunday on Chasing Life, Liberty, and Minarchy, right? Keep thinking about that. Actually, there's no episode next week, so you'll have to the 9th. No, wait, is that the 9th? No, that's the 6th. Whatever date that is, the 6th, the following Sunday after Labor Day, right? Is when we'll be back. But keep thinking about that fork in the road. Come back and listen to this if you have to, right? And think about that fork in the road and keep chasing life and liberty. Remember, love your neighbors, love yourself, and love your family. But remember, if you don't love your family, if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. Until next time, y'all, peace and love.